Hi everybody, Andrew Hayden. My Instagram handle is Andrew_Esquire Wood. Also have a YouTube channel that you're watching, maybe. And I'm down in my shop today. I've been out away from my shop for a week or so, having to do with, first last weekend, my wife and I were sick, and in bed all of Saturday, not doing anything fun, just in bed, sick as a dog, throwing up, being miserable, drinking warm soda with Pedialyte. It was gross, but not down in the shop. And then during the week, I still didn't feel 100% enough to come down in the shop. I also had to prepare for a jury trial that myself and another did put on Thursday and Friday. So that took up a great deal of time. Anyway, down here in the shop today. And I'm trying to get to a project, that a continuing project of the miter station. Haven't made much progress there. Today, I'm not certain I'm going to make much progress. I don't know why I can't say that. Much progress with the station build, but there is a item that I'm wanting to get to. I've told you about in my other videos that I have this acrylic plate. Now this acrylic plate came out of a Rockler trim router table, portable trim router table. He's router here, set it into the router table. Well, I left it plugged in, and I left the plug out in the middle of the room, and my son, Patrick, whose last name will remain nameless, he tripped over it, I think maybe in the dark or whatever, and it pulled it, snapped it out of the station, and so now I had to build another plate. And maybe these are things that people would just go, oh yeah, it's so easy to do. And it wasn't too hard to do. I don't know if I did it right, but I had to build another plate for it because one of the issues, I was using that table to run my drawers, my drawers through to get the dado for the 1/4 inch plywood for the bottom of the drawer. And it was nice because it was more of a production if I could just run it through that way. And it was, well, I bought the table, why not use it? Anyway, so I built a plate for it. It's 1/4 inch, just the same as the acrylic. And I filmed the process. Now, one of the main things about what I'm doing here is I'm learning not only woodworking, but I want to learn about content, video content, putting up content. So that means editing, that means production, and learning all that, all in an effort to be out of my head from my normal day job, being an attorney, and focusing on learning. Because as I've told you before, I'm in recovery. I'm a recovering drug addict, and I need diversion. I need to keep learning. I stay sober by listening to podcasts on recovery. I have lots of friends in the recovery movement. We go to those rooms from time to time. I don't do it on a regular basis as I probably should. I live in a really small community, and I'm a prosecutor, and I sent a lot of people there. But anyway, regardless, this is what I do. This is why I'm down here, not only because I love woodworking and the joy of building something, but also to learn new techniques, new ideas, and new platforms to put myself out there. We may try to remain anonymous in our recovery. I've never seen the value of anonymity for myself, not for others. I think that that's a fair and righteous thing, is that anonymity is the foundation of all our movements. But however, for personal anonymity, how do people know when you get sober that you're sober unless you put it out there? And it can be done. And one of the things you get to do is you get to, experience new things. When I was out utilizing drugs, and I didn't have a shop, I didn't have tools. If I had a tool, I used it to trade for drugs. And even though I was up maybe 24 hours a day, I didn't get anything done. So this is a way to do. Now, I will tell you that I'm 24 years sober, and it's taken me a long time to get to this point. But I've done a lot of things along the way. One of them is I went to school. I went to law school, and I became a lawyer, and then I've been working for the last 10 years as an attorney. And this was just one more progression in my life. So I hope that it's going to work out. It's working out already. I don't know. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be enormous. It just has to be real, and that's what I intend to do. So I've filmed the process of making that item. I'm going to learn the editing part here in a minute, and I hope that it works out. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time. I was able to utilize a 1/4-inch piece of plywood. I am, of course, building this miter station, and the drawer bottoms are made out of 1/4-inch. And here I am sizing up a bottom of a drawer, and I was able to use the offcut from this to build the plate. I will tell you that I like using this Craig track. Of course, I'm not using really heavy material here, so it cuts it a little like butter. And would also, readily admit the chunkier the wood that you're using, the more wonky utilizing this little track system is. But for this particular application, it worked out just fine. I was able to then get the acrylic plate and draw out the pattern that I would use to cut the plate out. I was contemplating using my small 10-inch Delta bandsaw, but my table's so jacked up right now, I just didn't feel like it was worthwhile. So I used my trusty skill saw, or Black & Decker saw here. The jigsaw is a little bit violent for the 1/4-inch material, and I'm really not working on a great table here, but it worked out just fine. I was going to be able to sand down to the sides, getting rid of most of the chips off of the edges that I was creating with this jigsaw. But it wasn't the greatest. Hey, if anybody has a suggestion as to what would be a really good jigsaw, I'd be happy to hear in the comments below. I like Bosch products, and I always think I would buy a Bosch jigsaw. I'm not certain which one I would get, and I don't know, whether or not the barrel type handles or the D handles are better. So any type of comments concerning your experience, not only with a good jigsaw, but whether D handles or barrel handles are better, I would be more than happy to hear. But again, like I said, with this 1/4-inch material that I'm using, it really wasn't tough to utilize this Black & Decker stuff, and it worked out just fine. As you can see, like I said, it wasn't completely round, and I still had to cut out the center, but it was good enough. And so then I just ended up taking it to the drill press. Now, in the drill press, you can see here that I utilize the Forstner bit. Now the Forstner bit size that I'm using isn't as big as the hole that I was going to ultimately need. I don't even know if I ultimately need it. Just what was on the plate itself. For this application, you'll see, I have only a 1/4 inch bit in there. It's very small, and it fits in the hole that was made. It's a little off center from the hole, from the plate. It sits a little weird, and that has to be because of the pattern of the router that I was utilizing, but it fits in there, as you'll see later on. So having it directly center in this hole doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, but I'm sure as I go up to different size bits for different reasons, that this hole placement may be an issue, and I might have to either widen the hole or make an entire new plate. But this wasn't really a tough project. As you see here, again, it is not that big of a hole, and it's not that thick of wood. So we moved on. Now I had to see whether or not it was going to fit in the table itself. So I went over to the table. Here is the portable Rockler trim router table and my camera lens cover, which was in the way. It didn't quite fit. Again, I hadn't sanded down the edges yet, but I was pretty close, so I was pretty happy about being pretty close. I then went over to my belt sander and smoothed out the edges. This was kind of an okay process. Utilizing the belt sander this way is okay. I wish I would have the spindle belt sander combination. I really like the rigid one that I've seen so far. But hey, this was just fine, and ultimately it worked out just fine, and it would end up fitting into the table, and this really took no time at all. Here you can see that it's in the table. I hadn't drilled out the holes for the screws to go in yet, but it sat flush. I just did some adjustments to the bottom screws, and it worked out just good. Great here. In fact, I think in the next two snippets, you'll see that the screw holes are cut in, and then ultimately I connected up the router. It sat in there pretty firm, and I even run the machine. I did a test piece. Here it is with the router attached. You can see it's a little off center, the hole. Let me know if that's going to be a problem for me later on down the line. So it turned out to be a successful project. New shirt. This was the router. You can see that the hole is off center, but it seemed to perform just fine. I ran a test dado, came out good. Didn't seem to want to move around, especially with the fence over the top of it. I don't know about, going in freehand without the fence. I mean, the router's pretty heavy, so it seats the plate pretty good. And I don't see a lot of yield, in the top where it flexes. I mean, it's 1/4 inch plywood. I mean, it's still plywood. It's not flimsy. It's just, it worked out just fine. So, yeah, this was a successful project. It's a beginner project that I had, and part of this project is also putting together this video. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and until next time, have a great day.